You identify, you know what, it's not my work, it's not the neighbor, it's not my health, it's not our beliefs, it's just the two personalities, mine and my partner's, that's giving me hassle. Now when you begin to clarify and you got it simple now and you're down to you and the other person. Clarification is sorting out, now how do I begin to understand that? Do I simply pour out all the blame and say whatever is going? No, you put it down and you begin to control the communication. You control it not to get even, but you control it so that you don't end up with worse problems because of your lack of self-control than what you had before. And what this passage says very clearly is when you begin to look for clarification, what you will find is that there's something going on inside your tongue because it wants to pour it out that talks about what is going on inside of you. You see, why do you want to say all the things that you do? Why do you want to have uncontrolled speech? Well, it's because there's some bitter things going on inside, and it's like this fountain that is wanting to pour out. And so what it comes out when you begin to clarify is that, you know what, I really have a rotten attitude inside. And I enjoy letting that rotten attitude sort of float around. And so clarification begins to put ownership on what am I doing with my life, with my decisions, with my tongue, with my conduct, with who I am. Instead of looking at your spouse and saying, oh, this huge crisis, it's all your fault. And so this here really helps to begin to work with seeing it from the other side and understanding it from the other side. As you do that, what's the fourth tool we dig out? The fourth one has to do with assessment or assessing what's going on. You see, you can have in a toolbox an ohm meter or a meter to read what's going on with the current. You can have a little gizmo that you put in the socket and it'll tell you whether it's live or not, whether there's current there or not. A little light will come on. It gives you an assessment as to what's happening. In Genesis chapter 6 and verses 5 through 12, Noah found favor with God and was referred to as righteous. Have you ever wondered how his wife assessed this whole venture? Have you ever wondered how she worked with family and friends who were wicked while Noah built, should have an H on there, Noah built the boat? Have you ever wondered how she perceived it and saw all of this, you know, there's only going to be 8 of us in this boat? And all the people that we've worked with and all the people that we know and all the people, you're telling them they're all wrong. You're preaching at them and telling them that you know absolutely everything, Noah, and they don't know anything. Pretty self-righteous, isn't it? Kind of proud and arrogant and independent and all of those kind of things. You ever thought of it from how Noah's wife thought? And to have a husband that invests his whole life in building a boat when it hasn't rained yet? Spending all their resources and everything into this venture? Great idea, eh? Go and do something that's a whim. God told me. You see, the aspect of assessing how things fit together and the scope of them, and the aspect is really where you begin to weigh it out. You begin to work through it and process it. And as you weigh it out, you not only see your perspective, but God's perspective and other people's perspective and some of the broader things. Another story that I ran across and was reading again this week is really the story of Jonah. You remember how Jonah was asked to go to Tarshish and he didn't want to go there? And then how after he had to go because he spent some time in the constraints of a fish inside and was vomited back up, and he decided that he would go. And then as he works with that and the Lord begins to come and talk to him, and as he assesses that, you have here really the description as to how Jonah was processing this whole aspect of stress and crisis and things that were going on in his life. And you come to verse 3 and he says, just kill me now, Lord. I'd rather be dead than alive if what I predicted will not happen. Have you ever been in a crisis where you say, Lord, I'm just tired and sick and all of this, and I don't want to work with these people anymore. Don't want to work with my spouse. Don't want to work with the boss. Don't want to work with my kids. Don't want to work with anything. I'd just like to die. Okay, you can assess. Assessing is okay. But when you assess, you also need to give room for a response. The Lord replied, is it right for you to be angry about this? You see, assessment isn't that aspect of you telling God what it's all about. Assessment is when you tell God what it's about, and then you allow God to tell you what it's about. And how God sees it, and how God understands it, and what's happening there. And so God asks him, is it right? Then Jonah went out to the east side of the city and made a shelter to sit under as he waited to see what would happen. Jonah says, I'm not ready to discuss, I'm ready to pout. So I'd like to go and pout while you sort of reconsider that I'm in a terrible pickle. That's not uncommon in regard to relationship, is it? When we're doing the assessing of what has happened in our lives, and assessing as to what's going on, and the first thing is, I don't really want to work with it anymore, and then when God challenges us on it, is that really right to have such a negative attitude and to treat it so negatively? That we really just go out and we pout rather than really allow it to be really assessed and see it through God's eyes. That's why you really need a toolbox. Because pouting and that self-pity can click in very, very easily. You don't need special training for that. You just need somebody else in your life. And you can be there. And so what God does is God picks up on that, and God says, what I'll do is I'll arrange